Nowadays, a man in Colorado can sit and throw a switch and annihilate people on the opposite side of the world. All of this started in World War I. So the people were very, very happy to celebrate the end of World War I. Eventually, during the Eisenhower administration, I believe it was, Armistice Day was transferred over to Veterans Day. Veterans Day to celebrate these men and women that are out in front of us here in their service to this country. Now, service, on the one hand, everybody says thank you for your service, and sometimes, to be frank, I don't know how you feel back here, Jay and Elisa, sometimes we get very shy. People say, thank you for your service. You say, what did I do? I was a chaplain assistant. Certainly I had things to do. I saw things that a lot of you people don't see, experienced things that most of you don't see, and I was privileged to work with some great people. Many of them, like Reverend Clergy back here that we just heard from. But service indicates sacrifice. This was mentioned in the item about sacrifice, because like the old song of love and marriage, you don't have one without the other. You can't have service without sacrifice. Sacrifice comes in many, many forms and shapes. This little coin that I have here, this is what's called a military challenge coin. And this is going to go to my friend Jay afterwards because it happens to have a Marine Corps emblem on it. This coin is indicative of sacrifice that the veterans made. Because if you throw this in the air, it never comes down and lands on its edge. It either lands one way or the other, this face or that face. This face indicates the maximum sacrifice, the supreme sacrifice, the giving of one's life. If you want to put a face to this side of the coin, take a walk out there in the hall. Look on those walls, and you'll see the face of this coin. You'll also notice none of those faces out there are old men like you see in here. No one has a cane. None of them. They all died in their youth. And that is this face of the coin, the supreme sacrifice. But what's on this side of the coin? These are the men and women that you see sitting here today who have made the other type of sacrifices. Varying degrees, yes. Some lost an arm or a leg or their sanity. And others did hardly anything. It's hard to see the face on this side of the coin, especially sometimes in Washington, D.C. on Capitol Hill, because like you Boy Scouts up there in the back, you're too far removed from reality to see the face on this side of the coin. But we see that reality. And I have three little examples here which I am personally involved in because I experienced them all. I had a fellow with me in the service, his name was Kurt. Kurt was a cook. Fine. What's a cook do? What do they sacrifice? Maybe Tommy can tell you, because I believe he was a cook. What did he do? Well, this kid's last name was Gottschalk. He was from Holland. He wasn't an American citizen. His sacrifice is that he came to this country. He gave up his citizenship in Europe to come to the United States, to join the United States Army, and eventually become a citizen so that he could take his place on the face of this coin by his sacrifice. Small though it may be, it was a sacrifice. The second young man I knew, this kid's name was Billy. Now it's been 55 years plus since I even saw Billy. Billy kind of looked like Howdy Doody. That's how I really remember it. Kind of a reddish-faced Howdy Doody. He was from Pennsylvania. Graduate of Penn State University with many, many honors. Cum laude, summa cum laude, all those other laudes that you want to throw in. Billy joined the same time I did, because he was from Pennsylvania. We ended up down in training, and we went through those beautiful battery tests, which all of you Army veterans have taken. I'm sure the Navy, Marine Corps is the same. And this boy with all these honors was found by the United States Army to be qualified as a mail clerk at post headquarters. 4 years of education and money to become a mail clerk. Now some of you may giggle and say, mail clerk, what does that do? But the mail clerk involves the biggest part of the service, and that's morale. Delivering that mail bolsters the morale, the everyday life of the military man or woman. You can ask Colonel Bellavia down here. I'm sure he ran into morale problems during his career. It's very important to maintain those. So what did Billy sacrifice? He's a mailman. Goes like this all day. Well, Billy gave up a minimum of 3 years of 6-figure salary that he could have made to buy himself a home, start a family, build a career. But Billy chose to come in the service and alongside me cash that check of $60 a month, which is what we lived on. Should tell you that. $60 a month. That's what he sacrificed. Probably in the range of $300,000 or $400,000 as opposed to $60 a month. That was Billy's sacrifice. Now we move along again to the final sacrifice that I'm going to talk about, which is on this side of the coin. Driving home from the duty one night, we were living off post, as a matter of fact, and it was that first kid, Kurt Gottschalk, who went with me the day I rented that apartment for my wife and I. As I'm driving down Route 38 in New Jersey, there's a kid on the side thumbing a ride. This was in May. I'm wearing tans because we were in summer uniform. I noticed this kid thumbing because he was wearing greens, which would indicate he had come in from another part of the world where they hadn't changed in the summer uniform yet. So I gave this kid a ride, and to make a long story short, this boy was on his way home in Pennsylvania, far western part of Pennsylvania. He had been a truck driver. So what, truck driver? What's a truck driver sacrifice? Very little, physically. This boy was called into the orderly room of his company on a Friday morning, figuring there would be something good there, but as he went in the orderly room, his first sergeant was there, and also a chaplain. Right away, you've probably all seen it on TV and in the movies, when the man walks in and sees the chaplain there. What had happened was his father had passed away after a short illness. By the time this boy was notified that his father had died, and he was able to get back home, his father was in the ground. That boy sacrificed the last moments of his father's life that he could have shared with him, because he was off serving you and me and the rest of this country. That's his sacrifice. He never got to say goodbye to Dad. If you don't think that's a sacrifice, think again. And the reason he wasn't notified, there is a government agency who will remain nameless that was supposed to notify him, but they were so busy they didn't have a person on duty in Germany. So while this boy tried to get home to see his father was buried by the time he got there. So there's another sacrifice. Again, not like these guys out here, not like my friend Tony that had a leg shot off in Vietnam, not like the mental case. But these are just 3 examples of how service equals sacrifice. Sacrifice for you, for me, for the country, each in their own way. All of which leads me to another point. This will be my last point. I don't know how many of you are impressed by the way the national anthem is sung at sporting events. Personally, it turns my stomach, having served in the military for so long, to hear these songs sung like country music or rock and roll or soul music. To see these people out there tromping on the flag, or again, our men in Washington dragging their feet on the Flag Protection Amendment. They make a mockery of their service and sacrifice that we all made. I don't know how you feel about that, but it makes me angry. It makes me very, very angry to see this happen. And like Sandy referred to in the paper, we saw this kid, two kids in the high school. They wanted to practice their right, not to stand for the national anthem. If they came into this hall right now, I'd show them how to practice their rights. Practice a few lefts, too. What I want to get at, as I was watching these things on TV and getting angrier and angrier and angrier, I thought, what are we going to do about it? Then I said, well, perhaps there's nothing we can do about it. But while I was watching this and getting angrier, angrier,